Good morning and welcome to Rose Red Homestead. Today we are going to be doing a wonderful meal in a jar. Actually, it is beef stew. We're going to be doing it two ways, some in a jar and some we're going to do a different way. Now we have done a couple of other videos on beef stew. Nothing could be more simple than putting together a meal in a jar than beef stew. It's very, very easy. Now this is a tested recipe from the Ball Blue Book, and I will be putting the link below this video so that you will have access to it. Now the recipe makes 7 quarts. I have found if I follow their recipes, usually it makes a little bit more than that, which will work out perfectly for us today. Now we're going to do a couple of things different. We're going to follow the tested recipe exactly for the canning, but we're going to be doing a little bit of something else for the stew that will be left over that we're going to be doing that second way. First, we're going to be using my big canner. It holds 7 quarts. Today, we're going to demonstrate how you can use a big canner like this for small batch canning. We've not ever shown that before. Some people will put in dummy jars filled with water, and that's just fine. I don't bother with that. I don't need water in jars, but some people really like it, and that works just fine. But for us today, these 4-quart jars that are ready to go right here are going to be the only jars that we put in our canner to process for 90 minutes. So stay tuned for how we do that. Now I have already done all of the safety checks. The vent is clear, the gasket is clean underneath. I have 1 rack in the bottom, and we have our weight right here ready to go. I don't put it here yet until a certain point in the canning, so I'm going to move this out of the way. We're going to be making our big batch stew in this big soup pot, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. Let me lock it in place, and then we'll turn it on. And it is on. I'm going to remove the lid and place about, a tablespoon or 2 in the bottom of this oil. This is avocado oil. Now, while that heats up, I wanted to show you the recipe. Here it is. Now, you may notice that that stew is in a bowl of pasta. Please note, I don't like that picture because it gives you the wrong idea. We never ever can pasta. And so that pasta was cooked and put in the bowl before the jar was opened and heated up. So the recipe does not include pasta, so just be aware of that. What it does include is 12 cups of potatoes, 8 cups of carrots, 3 cups of celery, 3 cups of onions, and 4 to 5 pounds of cubed beef. Now, beef is very expensive right now, and so I'm using a little bit less beef. I'm using barely 4 pounds, and I'm hoping that we're going to get about 8 quarts worth of stew. We'll see how that goes. But we bought some at the store at today's price, and we had a package of stew meat in our freezer several years old. So it's a combination of those 2 meats, and because that stew meat was several years old, it made the overall price of this operation go down slightly. So nevertheless, we will be happy to have good hearty bowls of stew available to us if things go south and we need to live on our food storage. So let me check this oil. All right, what I'm now going to do is just put a little bit of the meat in at a time, and I'm going to brown it all around. And then I'm going to remove it. It won't be done, and put it on this plate until I've been through the whole batch. So we will be back when the meat is all browned and ready to do the next step. Well, the meat is all browned and we've captured the juices. Ooh, the last batch is in the pan, so Jim is going to come up and get a little shot of that while I turn it back on. So I'm going to pull it forward so I can have better reach for it. And now everything goes in. Here's the meat with its juices. I just drained the potatoes. I had them soaking in water so that they would not blacken. And they're going in. And here are the onions. the carrots and celery. We have 1 teaspoon of thyme. 1½ tablespoons of salt. It does not call for pepper, but I'm going to put pepper in just because we love it. I'm putting about a tablespoon in. We are going to cover all of those veggies with liquid. The recipe calls for water. If you choose to use beef broth, you may do so, which is what I'm going to do. And we want it to just cover. And I think that we could say that that just covers it. All right, now, the next thing that we need to do is allow this to come to a boil. It does not have to be done. It just has to come to a boil. But because there is a lot of mass there and not everything was hot, it is going to take a little while. Also, our jars are at room temperature, so our water from the tap is very hot. I'm going to fill those jars with hot water until we're ready to fill them. So we will be back when this is boiling and we are ready to get it into the jars, and we're going to have some left, so let's figure out what we're going to do with that. All right, well, it took a half an hour for it to boil. And here it is. It kind of made a little foam on the top, but that's fine. I'll tell you, one of the most challenging things for us, and I will do it differently next time I do it this way, was mixing this so that everything is evenly distributed. Next time, the meat goes in the bottom and then the potatoes, and I'm going to stir that up. And then the next ingredient, and I'm going to stir that up because I think it will help us. But Jim finally was the hero of the hour and got it all stirred up. So I have these jars filled with hot water, so we do not have any temperature differentiation. The jars can't be cold while we put this hot stew in. And I like to put the solids in first. This one needs a little more meat so that I can adjust if things become necessary to adjust. And we need to leave 1 inch of headspace. And that's going to be about right. Now, I'm going to show you how I'm going to finish these off. I'm just going to show you one, and then I'm going to do the others off camera. So there we have that. So the next thing is I'm going to just get some of the broth. And fill up to 1 inch headspace. Then we're going to debubble. Wipe the rim with a vinegar paper towel so there's no fat that can cause us any problems with sealing. Put on a lid and a ring, finger tight, and get it over into this basket because we'll be going outside. So I'm going to finish the rest right here, and we'll meet you outside when we're going to load the canner. We're ready to put the jars in. The rack is in the bottom. The water is simmering, and in just a minute Jim will come up and get a close-up. But I just want to tell you, I've had people ask, why are you canning outside? Well, in the first place, my canner is aluminum, my cooktop is induction, so they're not compatible, it doesn't work. But even if I wasn't forced to do it out here, I would choose to do it out here. It is so nice having the canning out of the kitchen. Okay, Jim, come take a quick look. So they're pretty evenly spaced around, and that's all there is to it. This is a small batch. They don't need to be crowded together. Putting the lid on. Going to be turning it up. Steam will start escaping in a really big flow right here. When that happens, we're going to time it for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, I will put the weight right over the steam vent, and it will hold the steam in, and the needle will start progressing upward. We keep it between 13 and 15, and then once it gets up to that point, then we will time this for 90 minutes. When the 90 minutes is up, we'll turn the heat off and walk away, let the canner cool down on its own, and then we'll bring you back when we're ready to take them out of the canner. So we will see you then. Well, here comes the fun. When we can, we need to follow a tested recipe. But when we're going to preserve by another way, which is going to be freezing today, we can go wild with whatever we want to put in the stew. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So Jem is going to come up and get a look at how much stew is left from the canning. Okay. So here's what we're going to add to that. First of all, I'm going to fix a cornstarch slurry because we're going to thicken it, something that we could never do before canning, but we can before freezing. So I'm just going to get this slurry. This is 2 tablespoons of cornstarch and 2 tablespoons of water. Okay, we're going to get that ready. And let's see if I can... Not quite boiling yet. We're going to add some pepperoncinis. We bought a great big jar of these, I think from Costco, and I thought we would never get through them. We put them in pint jars and are keeping them in the refrigerator, and they're lasting a really long time. These are at least a year old. So I'm just going to cut some slices. These have such a lovely flavor. And we could add other vegetables, other flavorings. I'm just going to keep it fairly simple, but just to let you know that we have options when we are freezing something. The other thing is, the stew is not done. We are able to can before it is done because it will finish cooking during canning. So in this goes. And I'm also going to put in, Jim is crazy about Worcestershire. He calls it Ellen peas. So I'm just going to put a little bit in. And so there's not really a recipe for this. Just go wild and do whatever you would like to do for it. Okay, I'm going to just stir this in. And then we will stir up this slurry again because it has a tendency to, the solid sink back down to the bottom. And we'll see if this is going to be enough. As it heats up, it should thicken. So we'll come back when we know whether or not this is ready to go. You just keep adding a little bit of slurry until you get the consistency that you want. I'm now going to put in a couple of tablespoons of tomato paste, just to up the flavor a bit, and stir that around. So this is the perfect consistency that we like. So it's great. And that tomato sauce will darken the gravy just a little bit, add some flavor, and we are ready now. Just let this simmer until it is done. Once it is done, we're going to let it cool. And at that point in time, we will bring you back and show you how we're going to package it up. Well, here we are ready to put the cooled stew into these freezer bags. And we're going to be using our chamber vacuum sealer. But one of the reasons that I love our community so much is that we learn from you all the time. Someone suggested that instead of doing what I used to do, which is try to keep this upper clean, is to just roll it back. And so by rolling it over like this, I am keeping the upper 1 inch clean that is going to be used for the sealing part. So now that that's folded over, I'm just going to put about 4 cups in here, so we're going to do this a quart at a time. And it doesn't matter if it gets on the sides or whatever, because we are keeping that upper edge clean. So now, very carefully folding it up, and you can see that the top edge is completely clean. So let's get it in the vacuum sealer. So I'm just going to plop that right there, and then that little clean inch is going to go under this bar, this little clamp, and I'm going to clamp it down and close the lid. All right, here we go. Bag is puffing up. Now it is sealing. And now the atmospheric pressure is going to come back in. There we are. Okay, so we have another one done. And when I take this out, it looks like this. So I just lay it on the countertop and just move the contents. Because it's all vacuum sealed, it can still move until we freeze it. Okay, so there's another one, and we'll do our last one. Okay, it's sealing. And now we're getting ready for it to let the atmospheric back in. There it is. And we're done. So we have a good seal. Squash it out to the edges. Now I am going to just put them, I'm going to dry these flat. And these hold about a quart each. And the canner just turned off a couple of minutes ago, so we have about an hour to wait for that. Meanwhile, we're going to put these in the freezer, and we will be back when we're ready to take the jars out of the canner. Down, it's all down, so I can lift this. There's no pressure coming off, so it is safe to open. Beautiful, beautiful. So we're going to put all 4 of them just right here. Let them cool for a bit. And we will take you in the house and bring you back when both the pressure canned and the frozen are ready to view. So we'll see you in a little while. Finished. And I am so excited about these results. We put this stew together using hot pack. Now, when I was first canning, I used to do it raw pack until I learned that that's not the tested recipe. So I've been doing it hot pack since that time, and I can tell you that I much prefer the hot pack stew. It is better to my taste. But we ended up with 4 beautiful quarts canned and 4 quarts frozen, and these are pretty frozen. They've been out there several hours, and this is how we store them in the freezer. There's room for others here too, probably another 3 if we needed to have 3, and it saves space for us to stack them this way. So what a productive day, and thank you for joining us. I hope that this was useful to you, that you will try this, and especially the freezing of the stew where you can doctor it up just a little bit. So thanks so much for being with us. We really appreciate you, and we will see you very soon for more videos.